Hey everybody, this is Anthony from VR Game Rankings, and welcome to episode 35 of our daily vlog series. It is Skyrim Friday. Yes, of course, everybody has the day off from work today. It's Skyrim Friday. It's a nationally celebrated holiday, and we are all Dragonborn. Actually, to be honest, I have not received my copy of Skyrim VR yet. It is 10:05 a.m. Pacific time. Amazon, where are you? But anyway, that's Skyrim VR. We'll definitely get into that next week. I'm actually not going to mention Skyrim on this episode, except for maybe one little tiny story, but it really is not about Skyrim. It just happens to mention Skyrim. But let's go ahead and move on and get to the very first story of the day. And the big story in the VR world is Payday 2 VR beta. And let me tell you guys, I played this game yesterday for about 4 hours. Oh my God, it was such an incredible experience. Okay, I'm lying. I did not play Payday 2 VR whatsoever. I tried to play it. I actually did try to play it. So check this out. So here's the funny thing about Payday 2 VR. Way back when Payday 2 VR was first announced, it was announced as coming to the Oculus Rift. And the Oculus Rift, I'm sorry. It was announced as coming to the HTC Vive. There was no mention whatsoever of any Oculus Rift support. And this was, I don't know how many months ago when this got announced. Was it like back in the summer sometime? But at the time, I don't know, I just never thought about it. And so yesterday when it was coming out, my HTC Vive is down a bird. Let's see here. Yeah, see this nice beautiful lighthouse right here? Yeah, this lighthouse does not work, and I need to get a new lighthouse. And what I've been trying to do, I've actually been trying to sell off all of my HTC Vive pieces of my headset stuff. And it's not that I'm ditching the HTC Vive, not in the least. I was just thinking, well, I could get a bunch of money for all this stuff and then get the next Steam VR headset that will probably be announced January 2018, and I was just going to try to use my Rift and hold me over for a little while, right? Well, I completely forgot that Payday 2 does not really have any Oculus Rift support, and I just assumed it would work fine. So yesterday, after I did the vlog, I immediately went over to Steam. Payday 2 was up on there when I was done. When I started the vlog yesterday, Payday 2, the VR thing wasn't there. So I went ahead and downloaded that or updated it, did whatever it had to do. And then a little bit later in the day, I'm like, okay, I'm going to check out Payday 2 VR. And so fired the whole thing up, got it all started, put my headset on, and I actually got into like a menu screen where there was a front screen, like a theater screen that was showing almost like some commercials and stuff, and you could kind of look around and you could see some stuff. And then when all of that was done, it said hit any button on your keyboard or your Xbox 360 controller. And I'm like, what? That's kind of weird. And my touch controllers were not in the game at all. And so I tried, well, I have an Xbox 360 controller and it's already hooked up, so let me go ahead and try hitting a button. Maybe I can get in and play the game with that. Tried that, nothing happened. Hit a button on my keyboard, nothing happened. So closed out of everything, shut everything down, tried it all again. Same thing, could not get it to run. So then I bounced over to Reddit, and Reddit was in flames about this. Well, at least in the Oculus subreddit. Everybody was talking about how stuff wasn't working right. Even people on the Vive side of things were having a lot of problems with stuff. But some people were able to get in the game and they were having themselves an incredibly wonderful time. Unfortunately, I was not able to play it yesterday. But you know what? I do have a couple of thoughts from some Redditors that were playing it yesterday, and I thought I could go ahead and read some of this and kind of give you an idea of what is going on out there. So there is a thread on the Vive subreddit, and the title of the thread is Payday 2 VR, holy shit, it's awesome. What a classic title, of course. Now, this is by Redditor The Adult Child. Okay, so here's what he had to say about his experience with Payday 2 VR yesterday. I played for 5 hours straight last night. I've had my Vive over a year and have never done that. Never had so much fun in a VR game. Was with 3 other randoms the whole time, and we had a great time together. Laughing, working together, having an epic time. Stealth missions are so awesome. The game's awesome. The VR implementation is just fantastic. The teleporting is done very well. Feels great, but I would love onward style movement option eventually. Ran great, feels great, looks awesome. I'm so happy they made this. This is why I have a Vive. By far most content rich VR game yet. Like, wow. Thank you, devs. Okay, so that was the adult child. Now, this guy was absolutely in love with his situation yesterday playing Payday 2 VR. And this sometimes happens, I've noticed, with VR games. I think it's more common with VR games than it is with flat gaming, where you'll get into a VR experience and it just seems so magical. And it's because you're surrounded by it that sometimes when you take off that headset, you're like, oh my God, that was so, you just have like, that was so incredible. It was so amazing, man. Like, really, dude, it was so amazing. And we'll have those kind of feelings coming out of a VR game more so than I think you get in flat gaming. And I think it's just that being surrounded by everything thing. And I have to be careful with this because I can get really caught up and just fall madly in love with the game on the first blush. And I could have the same type of feelings that the adult child had, in that post that he did, Payday 2 VR, holy shit, it's awesome. Okay, so there was another little Reddit thread. This guy, a little bit more reserved in his thoughts, Payday 2 VR Thoughts by Mango Durbin. Okay, so here's what this guy did. This guy listed a number of things that he feels like the game needs. Like, he's basically saying, I really like this game, but it has some issues. And what he said is it needs smooth locomotion. Now, this is something almost everybody said when it comes to Payday 2. It needs smooth locomotion. Then he says, weapon handling feels very cumbersome. Seems like the detach distance is way too low. I wish there was a grip to grab continuously and press grip again to let go. I think he's talking about 2 weapons because it says weapon 2 handling. I'm guessing he's talking about holding 2 weapons at a time, maybe. The next point he makes is the game is blurry, but I expected that going in. Not sure if devs can do much about that. Then he says, grabbing items like jewelry can feel a little glitchy. Half the time, I will just yell for someone to lay down. And then he says, lack of a tutorial has me scratching my head a little, having not played much Payday before. Other than those issues, almost everything else has been great. Highly recommended. Okay, so, I can't comment too much on all of this because, again, like, I have not played Payday 2 VR yet, and we'll get to that in just a sec. But, the game is blurry. I mean, he kind of expected that. Lack of a tutorial. This is a beta. This is not like an officially sanctioned Payday 2 VR thing, and so it might be a little bit more janky from that standpoint in terms of not having a tutorial. Remember, they're not charging any money for this, and they gave away Payday 2 not too long ago. There's been a number of times when you could grab Payday 2 for free, which is one of the things that I did. I didn't have Payday 2, grabbed it for free, and then I was set up to be ready for yesterday when it all went down. Okay, so besides all of the Payday 2, besides this, yesterday, I was frustrated, that I couldn't get into Payday 2, and I was like, fuck, man, this isn't going to work. And I was talking to Arrowin X, actually. I was talking to Arrowin, and I was like, yeah, I tried to get into Payday 2. It didn't work. He's like, oh, yeah, you're on Rift. And I'm like, yeah, I forgot. I forgot that it doesn't really have support for the Oculus Rift. And then later, he sent me a link to a thread that this guy had on Reddit about Oculus support added, or no, wait, I'm sorry, that's the wrong story. He sent me a link to a thread about how Oculus Rift owners can get Payday 2 working using this OpenVR input editor or input emulator. Okay, it was a thread posted by Electric Medic. Okay, and so I actually have the thread here. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Oh no, maybe I didn't save the thread. Oops. Sorry, I didn't save the thread. Okay, so let's see. I don't have that thread. My bad. Um, yeah, let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, no. Okay. Sorry, but anyway, so this guy had a thread about how you could get Payday 2 to work with OpenVR emulator, but you had to jump through like 10 different hoops. I mean, it was like, okay, first step, blah, 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 do this. Okay, next step, blah, 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 do this. Okay, third step, okay, do this. And now when you get into the game, make sure you click on this and click on that and click on this and click on that. And then, oh yeah, if you want to change to another game, you're going to have to click all. And I was like, oh, hell no. I read about like 2 minutes of this thread and I'm like, I really would like to pay Payday. I would like to play Payday 2. I really would, but not this freaking bad. I'm sorry. Like when it comes to these different things where you have to add like a certain file or something, if it's a couple of steps, if it's like download this file, open the, where you have it, put it next to the executable, something like that. If it's something like that, I can work with that and I'll do that. But when it starts to get into like this step, that step, this step, that step, maybe if it was Fallout 4 VR, okay, if it was Fallout 4 VR and that's the only way I can play it, then I probably would jump through a million hoops. But I did not do that yesterday. I'm sorry, I did not jump through all of those hoops. Now, I do have a good story for Oculus Rift owners that do want to play Payday 2. Now, I saw this morning. Oculus support added to Payday 2 VR. And so this is actually on the Steam page for Payday 2. The devs of Payday 2 have updated it. And here's their message. Oculus support update. As we keep looking at proper Oculus support, we start out with fixing so that the game can recognize a controller with a joysticks as well as a controller with a touchpad, which will enable the Oculus touch controllers to appear in-game. The game does still require a room scale setup, so Oculus players are recommended to use 3 sensors and touch controllers to be able to play properly. So this was something I just saw this morning, so I haven't had a chance to get into Payday 2 yet, but I have 4 sensors, so I'm good to go. I can do the room scale thing. So hopefully this will work. Hopefully I will actually get into Payday 2 later today as I'm waiting for Skyrim to arrive. And I'll see if I have a similar feeling as the adult child, where this guy, he played it for 5 hours and was just saying the game is awesome. VR implementation is just absolutely fantastic. So I hope I feel like that when I finally get that working. So that is the Payday 2 drama. Okay, so the next news story I have is Google Spotlight Stories Sonaria is released on Steam. Now, this is another thing that I saw just this morning. I really don't know much of anything about it. I clicked on it. I saw the Steam page for it. What this looks like is another artistic kind of a thing. This is not a game. It's a VR experience. And it's similar to when like you get Google Blocks or you get the Coco experience or the Blade Runner Memory Lab or something like that. These non-gaming things, but interesting little experiences, or like that thing that we had a while back where it was Google, their new sound, and it was Audio Factory, I think is what it was called, and you could go up and down this elevator, you go to different stages and you try different sound. That's kind of what this is. Sonaria, it was released on Steam. I'll go ahead and read you what they have in their description. They say, in this VR experience, Sonaria follows 2 ever-changing creatures as they flow from one life form to another on a vivid journey of sound and light. Sonaria's visual language is simple and abstract, designed to suggest, while the sonic language is layered and immersive, designed to answer. Now, this does require a keyboard and mouse, which is kind of janky to a degree, because if you're like me, my computer situation is over there, my VR situation is over here, and if I go over to my computer, it's outside the Guardian boundaries. So it's kind of weird, when you have your headset on and you kind of flip it up and you're trying to go over to your computer to do something, but you go through your chaperone boundary or your Guardian boundary. It's always kind of weird mentally whenever I break through that boundary and I'm like, I'm not in the proper spot, you know, and you're screwing around with your keyboard or your mouse or whatever. So I've had some other VR experiences that did require you to use a keyboard and mouse. I believe MSI Electric City, the very first one, I think you had to use a keyboard to start it. But if it's just like hit a button here or there and then you start it up and you can enjoy it, that's not that big of a deal. So I have not tried this Sonaria. It is a free experience. I believe it's free. I'm not 100% positive about that, but I'm pretty sure this is a free download, a free experience. So definitely try this out. Check this out. I will definitely try it later today, assuming I remember it. Okay, next story I have. PlayStation VR is the #1 selling product on Amazon in the UK. So this is something that we just found out today. A new bundle deal has hit Amazon in the UK. £250. You can get basically the Skyrim bundle. I think it might be good with Gran Turismo Sport as well, but you can get it for basically £250. It's a really good deal. The sales increase in this is like 46,000% compared to what it was before this deal hit. So this is like prime time Black Friday deal. It's not Black Friday, but this is essentially a Black Friday deal that is already in effect. This is on Amazon in the UK. Don't know if there's going to be a similar kind of a deal here in the US, or maybe they'll just stick with the normal Black Friday deal that they're going to have, where they're kind of taking $100 off the price of everything anyway. But that is an amazing deal. A lot of people are jumping on this, and just a great deal. I really hope PlayStation VR, the sales of PlayStation VR continue to grow, because I'll tell you what, if a company is going to make a PlayStation VR game, it doesn't take them that much more work to possibly bring that over to the Vive and to the Rift. We've seen this with Headmaster. We've seen this with Super Hypercube. We've seen this with Spark. We've seen this with oh my God, what is it? Battlezone? I forgot the name of the tank game. Battlezone. We've seen this with Battlezone. We've seen this with a ton of PSVR games that have made the journey over to PCVR. So if PlayStation VR continues to be successful, that bodes well for the PCVR market as well, because we're going to eventually get a lot of these games on our Vives and our Oculus Rifts as well. So that is a good thing to see. It's also good for VR in general to have some success and to have a product that is doing better. So that is a good thing. Okay, the last story I have for you guys, and this is going to be a very short show today. I've got some stuff I have to do, so I don't have a ton of time for editing and stuff. So this is probably going to be maybe the shortest episode I've had so far. The last little tidbit I have for you is a new game was announced. This actually was announced like 2 days ago, and I had this on the list to talk about it, but never got to it because ran out of show time, basically got to the 28-minute mark or whatever, and was like, okay, that's enough. But Shaman Spirithunter has been announced for the Oculus Rift. Now, this is a handful of former Crytek developers, I believe in Germany. They formed a studio called PlaySnack, and a number of these people have worked on The Climb, and some of them have worked on Robinson the Journey, 2 Crytek VR games. And so they formed their own studio, PlaySnack, and they are working on a new game called Shaman Spirithunter. A trailer was released for this, but it was really a teaser that barely shows anything. So we don't have a lot of information on this, but it is a third-person game. Looks somewhat similar to maybe Edge of Nowhere is probably the closest comparison you could probably get for this. And this is a 2018 title. We don't have any kind of release window. And based on the trailer that was shown, which is very early, this could be maybe a second quarter or a third quarter Oculus Rift release. It's Shaman Spirithunter. It will most likely be coming to the HTC Vive as well. They're simply just announcing that it's coming to the Oculus Rift first, but as I don't believe there's any like locked in exclusive or anything like that. There might be a small timed exclusive that we don't know about, but it could simply be a case of where they're focusing on the Oculus Rift version first, and then they will bring it to the Vive a little bit later. You know, one thing I wonder about the Oculus Rift and the Vive, if you're going to make a controller-based game, because this looks like a game that you would sit in a chair and you play with a controller, similar to Edge of Nowhere, similar to Chronos. And one thing I wonder about is, do these kinds of games have more success on Oculus compared to the Vive? Because a lot of these games like Thumper and Super Hypercube, any of these games where you're sitting in a chair, you're using a controller, Battlezone, like I mentioned, they don't seem to have a ton of success on the HTC Vive. At least going by the Vive subreddit, there usually is not a lot of hype about sit-down controller-based games. And the reason for this makes a lot of sense if you really go back and think about it. Remember, the Oculus Rift, when it launched, for almost an entire year, all you had was your Xbox 360 controller, and people were playing games like Edge of Nowhere and Chronos and Feral Rights and all these different seated controller type games. And so I guess Oculus Rift owners are probably a little bit more lenient when it comes to that and more accepting of that, where the flip side, Vive people, you know, starting April 2016, everybody that had a Vive had a motion controller, and most of the games you were playing, they were stand-up games. You're moving your arms around, you're in that world, and so a lot of Vive owners got used to that. And so then some of these seated controller-based games started coming out on the Vive, and a lot of Vive people are like, I don't want this, you know, third person, this is not VR, blah, 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 wah, 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 you know. But it just seems like HTC Vive owners are not as receptive to these seated games. So that could be part of the reason that Shaman Spirithunter could be coming to the Oculus Rift first. So anyway, that's that story. And like I said, guys, we've hit the 22-minute mark. This is going to be the shortest episode that I've had so far, I believe, but it is Skyrim Friday, and I gotta, oh, you know what, I was going to mention Skyrim. I did mention it, the Skyrim bundle for the Amazon thing. That's where I was going to mention Skyrim one more time. But yeah, it is Skyrim Friday, and Amazon, please, I want to hear the truck. I want to hear the truck pulling up, and I want them to deliver my Skyrim so I can start installing the damn thing. I figure it probably takes like 25-40 minutes to install the damn thing, so I want to get that done. There's probably some huge ass patch as well that I have to deal with, and then I want to grab my Move controllers and I want to disappear into the world of Skyrim. I can't wait to just get into the forest. I just want to walk, you know, just walk in a random direction. I'm not even going to follow, I mean, I'll follow the story for a little bit, but as soon as they let me free, I'm just going to be like, you know what, I'm going to go in that direction and I'm just going to take off walking. It's one of the things I love to do in Fallout as well, and I'll be looking forward to that on December 12th, of course. Okay, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this show. Sorry I didn't have actual legitimate takes on Payday 2, but now that support has been added, I should be able to try that later today. So I'm going to have a lot of thoughts on this next week. I do have a show note. Tuesday, no show. I will be out of town Tuesday. I will not be able to do a daily vlog next Tuesday. I'll remind people on Monday's episode as well. But that's going to do it. This has been episode 35 for Friday, November 17th, and I will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful weekend. Take it easy. Later.